Okay, what do you want to yell at me for? I given my opinion, and that's what it is, you know?
Okay. So is there any particular reason, first of all, that you're bringing up a game from 3 months ago today?
Well, you talked about Notre Dame, and I think you were alluding to their situation and their quarterback, and I agree with you. Always Irish, I made a comment about quarterbacks, and these Notre Dame has had 3 one and dones, for the last 4 years, I think, with Jack Cohn and then Hartman, and now we're going to have Riley Leonard. I made the point of when you talk about guys that are like Jane Daniels at LSU and Bo Nix going over to Oregon, those guys didn't do much in their first year, but in their second year, they were up for the Heisman. Now, Notre Dame is going on this one and done kick, and one and dones just don't work at the quarterback position. There's too many. They need to get to know the campus. They need to get to know their teammates. They need to get the wide receivers. They need to know the styles and chemistry of the receivers. It's just a lot to ask for when you get a quarterback to come in for 1 year. And so on that point, I agree with you. On the other point about Notre Dame, that's why I brought up the game. Like, you made it seem so blasé that Notre Dame isn't in Ohio State's class. But, in this last game they played, and in that first game, I'll give another excuse, Buckner making his first start at the shoe. But in this last game, it was pretty darn even. And I would say the lion's share of dominance went to Notre Dame, but OSU got a 3rd and 19 down to the 1 and then got a 1 yard. It was just so lucky to me. And earlier in that game,
that 3rd and 19 conversion was lucky.
I would say so. I mean, he threw it in between 3 guys.
Yeah, knock it down.
It was a good pass, and I gave him credit for that.
Well, that's not luck.
Well, it was 3rd and 19 with like 2 seconds left, or, 5 seconds left. What are you going to do? Okay. That's pretty lucky to me.
Why is it lucky?
Because with that much time left,
because
and
Notre Dame didn't defend the play, and he made a perfect throw, and the receiver made a good move on the DB to get open, and it was timed perfectly. That's luck.
Yeah, well, it was pretty lucky in the big picture of things, because Notre Dame was on that drive bringing them back and back and back to a 3rd and 19, and then all of a sudden they completed that. It's like, yeah, are you kidding me? So. Either way, they won by, Ohio State won by 3 points, but when you look at that call, when Marvin Harrison, Travion Henderson was running for that 70-yard touchdown, Marvin Harrison was totally holding, and it was right in front of their faces, and they didn't call it. That touchdown should not have counted.
Okay. I would have to go back and watch the play. I remember the touchdown run. I don't remember the hold.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't expect you to.
Okay. Ohio State could have won a playoff game and won the national championship last year if the officials would have properly, in some people's eyes, called a targeting. Okay. So Ohio State got possibly ripped off there. I don't cry about it. I think that they should have won the game, but they didn't. Georgia won fair and square. It was a bang call. As a football fan, that holding can be called
on every play. Absolutely.
Pretty much
for the offensive line, but not so much for the outside of the front seven. The tight ends you can get called, but receivers and cornerbacks and all that's they pretty much allow a lot, and that's what they did there. But it's my problem with the Big Ten refereeing. I mean, I saw it a lot through all these years, and you won't want to hear that because you're in the Big Ten, and those refs,
I'm not in the Big Ten.
Well, they know where their bread is buttered. Same thing with the Pac-12. Most conferences are doing that. I mean, Notre Dame's game, I think, with Louisville this year, they didn't get one penalty called on. Louisville didn't commit one penalty, and that hadn't happened for them since the 1950s. So like Notre Dame not being in a conference definitely doesn't get a lot of love from refs. You got to see that.
So if I look this up, Joe,
Yeah.
I would find that Notre Dame gets called for more penalties than their opponents every year. That's what you're
No,
telling me.
no, that's not what I'm saying. And I don't know. I doubt if that's true. I mean, I just don't
Okay.
believe that's true.
Well, then why are we picking and choosing certain games? Let's start over here, Joe, because you've gone down a lot of different paths.
Okay.
The first thing was I was making an assessment about Notre Dame's offense, Mike Denbrook's career, and do you it was a very general assessment. I wasn't breaking down individual players, but I was making a very general assessment of
Yeah, it
Notre
was
Dame's
blasé, as I said.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said it was blasé, your comment, as I said. It was like offhanded, kind of like, yeah, Notre Dame's quarterback. And I agree with most of it because I don't like what they're doing.
I wasn't being critical.
No, I said blasé.
Yeah, I was not being critical of Notre Dame's offense. I was saying that it lacked some explosiveness, and that's been the biggest issue under Brian Kelly and now Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, with their receivers.
Yeah.
The running backs are good.
Yes, absolutely. Notre Dame has had one of the 3 or 4 best offensive lines in college football for close to a decade.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think they're soft.
I was about to say that I wasn't as impressed with this offensive line against the likes of Ohio State and especially that Louisville game. So I wouldn't necessarily have said this about this offensive line. And I was a bit surprised that I can't think of his first name. Is it John Alt?
Joe
Alt. That he was evaluated as highly as he was. I know that he came into this season with a tremendous reputation, but he had some misses in that Louisville game in particular.
Yeah. Well, he allowed 1 sack all year is what they credited him.
Okay. Yeah, far be it for me to go against people that are evaluating every snap. So I'm not saying. I watched Notre Dame play the big games. I probably saw him play 7 games this year. And
I'm not salty.
I saw a Notre Dame offense that was pretty much indicative of what it typically is.
I agree.
Estime is a tremendous running back. I would not want to get in the guy's way in the secondary, that's for sure. And a really good offensive line, maybe not to Notre Dame's vintage standard, but I don't want to say, I'll say marginal receiver play. And I was very slightly disappointed with Sam Hartman. I was a big Sam Hartman fan going into last season, but he played in a different offense. He was used to throwing the ball 45 times a game and really the offense being centered around him. And that wasn't the case, but maybe I was expecting too much because he's not a elite quarterback. He's
not by any means
good college quarterback.
He had great receivers when he was at Wake Forest.
Yes.
Much better than Notre Dame's.
And I'm sure he played a tougher schedule than he ever played at Wake Forest.
You know what he did also, I noticed in his year at Notre Dame, his throws mostly came off of his back foot and almost looked like everyone was in desperation. Like he didn't like, step into his throws. And I don't know if that was a result of the constant pressure because we had a center, Zeke Correll, who was horrible. And most of the pressure that got to him was coming right up the middle because they had 2 rookie guards, and a center that's useless. So, I mean, maybe I can't blame him that much, but it seemed to me like his throws were always off his back foot, or he just struggled, trying to make a play.
Joe, I seem to like your team better than you do.
Possibly.
Well, I'm glad that you called. And just to comb through.
I like your show, Mark.
Well, I appreciate it. And thanks for being here. And I don't pretend to be unbiased. I pretend or say that for sure that I do everything I possibly can to be unbiased. but I just
You're
think that
pretty
that's
good at it. I'll
impossible.
give you that.
So
But
I
I
do
know
my
where your
best.
allegiance lies. You know, you're good at it though.
But
You're pretty good at being unbiased, having a show.
do you
Yeah.
realize when most people, until they determine where my allegiance lies, they have no idea?
Yeah. I was like that actually at first. When I first called it, I didn't know who you were with. I just figured you're a total college football fan, and you are. But I found out that it is OSU, and I found out because of the Michigan people.
Well, yeah, they kind of drag it out of me.
Yeah,
They get the best of me. And I
I
got to
know.
say, Joe, that Notre Dame fans got the best of me this year because this is what I got tired of hearing leading up to this game. And so we're talking about, like you said, the Tyler Buckner game, the 21-10 game in Columbus. So there was a lot of time, a lot of build up to the next game. And I had no issue with any Notre Dame fan who told me or commented in the chat that they were confident that Notre Dame was going to win the game. I had absolutely no issue with that. I didn't think that was ridiculous. The teams were very evenly matched, at least on that night. They certainly were. They played a great game down to the wire. Either team could have won. Notre Dame may have outplayed Ohio State. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch the game. But I certainly didn't pound my fist and say, well, Ohio State proved that they're so much better than Notre Dame or anything like that. No, this was a dead even game. But these are the two things that irked me about Notre Dame fans, and not every Notre Dame fan, but many of them leading into that game for months and months and months. Number one, how many of these Notre Dame fans told me, I guarantee Notre Dame's going to win? Now, what kind of ridiculous statement is that? Guaranteeing,
It's
like,
ridiculous.
yeah, like I wouldn't guarantee that Ohio State would win that game. Like, what does that even mean? What are the ramifications of you guaranteeing that Notre Dame's going to win? Do we get to chop off a finger if they don't? Like, what? Like, I don't even get that comment. And then the other one was for those people that stated over and over in different ways that Notre Dame had more success and a better program than Ohio State. And
Well,
that's
they're
just
talking out of their ass, basically.
okay. Well,
That's
thank
you
you,
can't.
Joe. I
There's no
appreciate
way
that.
that's true.
So, okay,
There's
we don't have to take that. And I even was fair enough to say I can't say that Notre Dame may overtake Ohio State this year and have a better program right this second. Nobody's played a game this year, but recent history isn't debatable. Okay, thank you, Joe. I appreciate you at least relenting to that. And I'm not here to rub that in anybody's face. Just that's what we do here. We discuss and all of that. And when that comes up, I'm just like, what are we debating here?
Yeah. No, I you wanted me to call, so I called. I mean, I
No, I
have
appreciate you calling. I'm glad that you called. It would be like me, let's say for the last 15 years, I would debate Ohio State's program against any except Alabama.
right. I
I
would agree
can't
with that.
argue that they're better than Alabama the last 15 years. They're not. So I wouldn't argue it. I would try to. I could manipulate a little bit, some numbers, and bring up some things that might bring some things to light, but I can't argue that. Alabama's had the best program in college football for the last 15 years.
Yeah, I
It's
would
not
agree with that,
debatable.
and I would agree. Ohio State's probably like right there, and if they play every year, they probably in the last 15 years, if they were to play for a championship against each other every year, it'd probably be like Alabama winning, 9 and Ohio State winning 6. I would say, like because Alabama
That's
really
fair.
was that much better. I think.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Okay, buddy.
That is fair, Joe. I appreciate you calling. Merry Christmas, and I hope you
Thank you.
enjoy the holidays.
Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to all you guys. I'm a fan of this show, and I call things as I see them. So when you see things that I say in the comment section and you want me to call in, I'll talk to you about it.
Awesome.
But
All
Merry
right, Joe.
Christmas to all those guys there.
Thank you.
All
Good
right,
night.
bud.
Oh, this is the way this is supposed to work right there. Thank you, Joe, for calling in. I know you don't typically call in. I think that's the first time. I think that is exactly what doesn't happen when I'm on Twitter and I either present a topic and then people don't like the way I presented it, and then they start to throw out all these erroneous facts that are misinformation, they're incorrect, and then I challenge them to come on the show. And I'm going to be kind. I'm going to try not to call you a moron. I'm going to try not to call you an idiot. I did take a early New Year's resolution not to do that. So I will do my best not to do that, because I did have a caller on here about a week ago, and I went on a bit of a rampage at the end of the call, and those terms were thrown out repeatedly at them. So I will do my best to withhold those terms. But that's the way this is supposed to work. I have never had anybody on Twitter that I have asked politely to come on the show and let's discuss it, take me up on it. And they don't even respond. Like, it could be one of these back and forths 15 times. And then as soon as I say, we're not getting anywhere here as keyboard warriors discussing this back and forth, call the show. Silence. They're gone.